There comes a moment in life when you realize that you've been giving your energy, your thoughts, and your emotions to someone who never truly valued them. And when that realization hits, you have two choices. You can continue down the same exhausting path of hoping, waiting, and bending over backward for someone who takes you for granted, or you can stand up, take a deep breath, and reclaim your power. Power, let's talk about that word. What does it really mean? Power is not control over others. It's not about making someone feel your absence or proving a point. Power is energy. It's the force that drives your life, the fuel that pushes you forward, the essence of who you are. And the truth is, every single day that you spend obsessing over someone who doesn't reciprocate your effort, you are leaking power. You are draining yourself piece by piece, drop by drop. Think about it. How many times have you checked your phone waiting for a message that never came? How many times have you reshaped your own needs, your own desires, just to fit into someone else's world? How many nights have you spent replaying conversations, wondering what you did wrong, wondering what you could change to finally be enough for them? Let me be very clear. You are already enough. You always were. The problem isn't you. The problem is that you've been giving your power to someone who never deserved it. And the moment you stop caring about him, the moment you shift that energy inward, something incredible happens. You come back to yourself. Think of it like this. Imagine your power as a bright, burning light inside of you. But every time you prioritize someone who doesn't prioritize you, that light dims. Every time you make excuses for their behavior, it flickers. Every time you let their indifference affect your mood, it weakens. But the moment you decide, truly decide, that you will no longer allow someone else to dictate your happiness, your power returns. That light inside you begins to burn brighter than ever before, and when that happens, your entire reality shifts. You start to feel stronger emotionally and mentally. You wake up with clarity instead of confusion, with confidence instead of self-doubt. Your energy is no longer wasted on analyzing mixed signals or trying to decode someone's half-hearted actions. Instead, you pour that energy into your own life, your own growth, your own happiness. The moment you stop caring about someone who doesn't see your worth, you step into your own value. It's like waking up from a dream where you were constantly chasing, constantly seeking, constantly hoping for validation that was never going to come. But now you don't need it, because now you see yourself, and something incredible happens when you reclaim your power. You start attracting better. You stop tolerating breadcrumbs. You stop entertaining people who are unsure about you. You stop engaging in relationships where you feel like you have to prove your worth, because you know your worth. You know that love should never feel like a battle for attention, like a constant uphill climb for recognition. Real love, real connection does not require you to diminish yourself just to fit into someone else's life. This is where transformation begins. This is where the shift happens. When you reclaim your power, you stop waiting. You stop waiting for closure that will never come, for apologies that won't change anything, for someone to finally realize what they had in you. You stop hoping that maybe if you just hold on a little longer, they will become the person you need them to be. You stop giving them the benefit of the doubt when their actions have already shown you who they are. Instead, you take back the time, the energy, the love you were so freely giving, and you reinvest it into the most important person in your life, you. You put that energy into healing, into growing, into building a life so fulfilling, so rich with joy, that the thought of lowering your standards ever again becomes unthinkable. And let me tell you something. When you finally reclaim your power, when you finally break free from the emotional grip of someone who never deserved you, you won't just feel different, you will be different. You will radiate confidence, you will exude self-respect, and people will notice, but by then, you won't be seeking their validation, you won't need it, because you will have something far greater. You will have yourself. Fully and unapologetically, Emotional chains are the invisible forces that keep you tied to someone long after they have stopped deserving a place in your life. These chains don't come in the form of metal shackles or locks. They are much more powerful because they exist inside your mind. They are built from the moments you replay, the hopes you still cling to, the memories you refuse to let go of. And the most dangerous part, these chains feel familiar. They feel comfortable, even when they are causing you pain. Breaking free from these emotional chains is not just about walking away from a person physically. It is about untangling them from your heart, from your thoughts, from the space they have occupied in your mind for far too long. It is about recognizing that the only thing keeping you bound to them is the story you continue to tell yourself. The story that maybe one day they will change. That maybe one day they will love you the way you deserve. That maybe one day you will be enough for them. But let me ask you, how much longer are you willing to wait for that maybe? How many more nights will you spend wondering why you weren't chosen? How many more times will you let their indifference make you question your worth? How many more excuses will you create to justify behavior that deep down you know is unacceptable? Because here's the truth. The longer you hold on to someone who doesn't truly care, the deeper those chains dig into your soul. And the only way to break free is to understand why you are holding on in the first place. Maybe it's the fear of being alone. Maybe you have convinced yourself that no one else will love you the way they did. Maybe you have built so much of your identity around this relationship that the thought of losing it feels like losing a part of yourself. But let me tell you something, you are not losing anything, you are gaining yourself back. When you stop caring about someone who never valued you, you don't just walk away, you release yourself. You release yourself from the constant overthinking, from the need to prove your worth, from the exhausting cycle of giving more and receiving less. You release yourself from the illusion that their love, their attention, their approval is something you need in order to feel complete. But breaking free doesn't happen overnight. It happens in moments. It happens in the moment you choose to stop checking your phone, hoping for a message that never comes. It happens in the moment you stop looking for signs that they still care. It happens in the moment you decide that your peace is more important than their presence. And every time you make one of these choices, the chains begin to loosen. At first, it feels uncomfortable. It feels unfamiliar. Because for so long, you have tied your happiness to their validation. You have made them the center of your emotional world. But as the days pass, as the weeks go by, you begin to feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Freedom. Freedom from wondering what they are thinking. Freedom from trying to be good enough for them. Freedom from the weight of their inconsistency, their half-hearted efforts, their lack of appreciation. And with that freedom comes clarity. You start to see the truth that was in front of you all along. You start to recognize that love is not meant to feel like a battle. It is not meant to feel like a guessing game where one day they seem interested and the next they are distant. It is not meant to make you feel anxious, insecure, or constantly in competition with others for their attention. Real love is consistent. It is clear. It does not leave you questioning your worth. And once you taste this kind of emotional freedom, you will never want to be chained again. Because now you realize that those chains were never a sign of love. They were a sign of attachment, of fear, of conditioning. And once you recognize that, you become unstoppable. You start making choices that serve you instead of ones that drain you. You start surrounding yourself with people who pour into you instead of those who take from you. You start investing in yourself, in your growth, your passions, your happiness, because you are no longer wasting your energy trying to keep someone who was never meant to stay. The moment you break free from emotional chains, you step into a new version of yourself, a version that no longer settles, no longer begs for attention, no longer accepts less than what they deserve. A version that finally understands that real love doesn't require you to lose yourself. It allows you to become even more of who you are. For too long, you've been placing your energy, your thoughts, and your emotions into someone who hasn't been doing the same for you. Every time you overthink a conversation, every time you analyze their mixed signals, every time you put their needs ahead of your own, you are pouring your focus into someone who is not reciprocating. And the truth is, the more you focus on them, the less you focus on yourself. But let's flip the script. Let's talk about what happens when you finally take all that energy and redirect it toward the most important person in your life, you. At first, it might feel strange. For so long, you've been programmed to care about how they feel, what they think, and what they want. Your happiness has been tied to their actions, whether they text you back, whether they show up, whether they make you feel special. But the moment you decide that you are no longer going to revolve around them, you take the first step towards something life-changing, self-investment. Imagine if you took all the hours you've spent overanalyzing, worrying, and hoping for their attention, and instead use that time to build yourself. What could you accomplish? How much stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled would you be if all that mental and emotional energy was focused on your growth instead of their inconsistency? Because here's the reality. The energy you give to someone who doesn't value it is wasted potential. But when you turn that energy inward, you create something powerful. You start pouring into yourself in ways you never have before. You begin to set new goals, not for them, but for you. Maybe it's improving your health, starting a new business, learning a new skill, or deepening your relationships with people who actually value you. Suddenly, you are no longer seeking their approval because you are too busy elevating yourself. And something incredible happens when you shift your focus. You realize that you were never the problem. You were never too much. You were never not enough. The problem wasn't you. The problem was where you were directing your energy. You were trying to plant seeds in barren soil, hoping something would grow. But now, you're planting those seeds in yourself, in your own life, and suddenly things start to bloom. Your confidence starts to rise. Not because they finally noticed you, but because you started noticing yourself. You begin to recognize your own worth, your own power, your own ability to create a life that fulfills you with or without them. And here's the thing. Once you start focusing on yourself, you stop tolerating less. You stop chasing people who make you feel like an option. You stop waiting for someone to choose you when you could be choosing yourself. You stop settling for breadcrumbs of attention because you are too busy feasting on your own success, your own growth, your own happiness. But let's get real. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes intentional effort. It takes waking up every day and making the conscious decision to prioritize your needs over someone else's indifference. It takes unlearning the habit of seeking validation from outside sources and realizing that everything you've been looking for has been inside you all along. The moment you start redirecting your focus, you become unstoppable because now your happiness is no longer dependent on someone else's affection. Your self-worth is no longer tied to their approval. You stop waiting for love and start becoming love, radiating it, embodying it, and attracting it effortlessly. And the best part, once you begin investing in yourself, you don't even have time to worry about them anymore. You're too busy building, growing, thriving. You've stepped into a new reality, one where you are the priority, where your dreams matter, where your happiness is in your own hands. When you stop caring about someone who never truly valued you, something powerful happens. You make space. You make space for better relationships, deeper self-discovery, and greater opportunities. You clear out the mental and emotional clutter that was keeping you stuck, and in its place you create a life of abundance. But let's get something straight. Abundance isn't just about material wealth or external success. Abundance is a mindset. It is the belief that there is more than enough love, happiness, and opportunity available to you. It is the realization that you do not have to cling to something or someone who isn't serving you out of fear that you won't find something better. Because the truth is, the moment you let go of what is draining you, you open yourself up to receive what will fulfill you. Think about it. When your mind is occupied with thoughts of someone who does not reciprocate your energy, your world feels small. Your focus is narrow. You become consumed by what you don't have, by the validation you wish you could receive, by the attention you are craving. And when you operate from that place of scarcity, you attract more lack. You settle for less. You tolerate situations that make you feel small. You accept relationships where you are only halfway seen, halfway heard, halfway loved. But what happens when you shift from scarcity to abundance? Everything changes. You start realizing that love is not limited. Just because one person didn't value you doesn't mean no one else will. Just because one person couldn't meet you at your level doesn't mean there isn't someone out there who will. When you embrace abundance, you stop holding onto people out of fear. You let them go because you trust that what is meant for you will never require you to beg for it. And it's not just about relationships. When you stop pouring your energy into someone who isn't giving it back, you reclaim that energy and use it to create a life that is rich in every way. You invest in your passions. Maybe you start that project you've been putting off. Maybe you take a trip you always dreamed of but never prioritized. Maybe you develop a new skill, meet new people, or take better care of your body. When you are no longer weighed down by someone else's inconsistency, you become free to explore, to grow, to expand in ways you never thought possible. And let's talk about how abundance shifts your confidence. When you come from a place of scarcity, you feel like you have to prove your worth. You feel like you have to fight to be chosen, to be seen, to be appreciated. But when you adopt an abundance mindset, you realize you don't need to chase anything. You are the prize. You are the person who brings value, who has something incredible to offer. And when you believe that, the world starts responding differently to you. People notice. Opportunities arise. The energy you put out, one of self-respect, self-love, and confidence, draws in the right kind of connections. Because the moment you stop wasting time on the wrong people, you start attracting the right ones. And the best part, you no longer settle. You no longer accept half-hearted efforts. You no longer entertain situations that drain you. You no longer fear letting go because you trust that what's ahead is so much greater than what you left behind. You step into a life where you are no longer waiting to be chosen, you are choosing yourself. You are building a life that is so full, so abundant, so rich in joy and meaning that anything that does not add to it simply does not belong.